Happy Monday, everybody. Donnie Baker here with the LPR Sound Foundation. Today we're talking about, I'm pulling from a masterclass we just did for the community, and I thought this would be awesome to give to you guys. We're going to talk about Pro Tools preferences, preferences that I think you should use. I'm going to show you what each thing is in the preferences in Pro Tools. Okay, we're going to go through each tab and each item inside the preferences, explain what it is, why it's there, why you might want to change it, why you shouldn't change it. Make Pro Tools yours. Let's make Pro Tools yours. Let me share with you how to do that. And stay till the end, because I'm going to give you some. There's a great app that you can use to help facilitate any changes and things that you might need to make in your Pro Tools preferences. If you guys are ready to go learn about Pro Tools preferences, let's go. Okay, let's talk about preferences in Pro Tools. Now, this is going to be awesome. There's a couple of ways that, like everything else in Pro Tools, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can go to Setup and click Preferences, and it opens up your Preferences window, or you can go over here to Pro Tools and click Preferences, and it opens up the same window. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about each one of these tabs, and in each tab we're going to go to each category, and inside each category we're going to talk about every one of these things, each one of these selections that you can do, whether you turn them on, whether you turn them off, you change the amount, you change the color, whatever. If you guys are ready to talk about your preferences in Pro Tools, let's go. So we're going to start here on the Display tab, and that is exactly what it sounds like. It's what things look like in Pro Tools. Track position numbers stay with hidden tracks. Now, if you're one that likes to have track position numbers turned on, and what that means is that the tracks over here will have numbers associated with them. So you can, like, track 1, track 2, track 3, and so on. If you select this and you turn on your track numbers that you want to watch them, you want to look at them, this will keep any of the track position numbers if you hide the tracks. Tool tips, function, and details. Now, what this is when you go and you mouse over something, it tells you exactly what it is. You like, if you're in Pro Tools and you mouse over something and you leave your mouse there for a second, it tells you what it is. That's the audio input path selector. I leave those turned on, even though, you know, I kind of know that that's the audio input thing, but I just leave it on. Edit window default length. This is how much time is in the edit window. Just don't touch it. Leave it alone. Leave it all at zeros. Unless you're one that says, okay, I'm only going to work on a 3-minute thing, make it 3 minutes. Okay. Now, this is set up in time code. Time code is hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Next, you can organize your plugins by category. Now, this is the default. Okay, I've started with my preferences in the default mode. I like to use category and manufacturer. Okay, and I also leave this one alone, organize track IO by type. Okay, I just leave that there. What the organize plugin menus by category manufacturer means is if I go over here and I go to look at my category, it shows me the category, EQs, but it also shows me who makes it. Okay, so let's say I know I want to go to UADX, I just go there. The newer Pro Tools, you could just start typing. Let's say you need a reverb, and it brings up everything with the name reverb in it. So that makes life really easy. So you don't really have to do that. I mean, but if you do, let's go change it. Let's change it to, this is a fun one, flat list. If you want to just have a flat list, and then you go look at your plugins, they just come in as a list. That's kind of weird. Some people might like that, though. I personally leave mine on category and manufacturer. Auto switch input language. Okay. So the language being what, if you speak another language, Spanish, German, French, traditional Chinese, you can change the language of these words over here, like synth bus 1. You can make that be in whatever language you need it to be in. The UI theme, now this is what we look at. Now this is the classic, and you can change it to the dark, and it changes it to the dark. I have a hard time getting used to the dark mode because it's always been in a light mode for me, and it's easier to see, easier to look at. It's easier for me to get around. So I leave mine in classic. Sometimes I'll put it in dark if I'm in a mood And maybe I'm mixing and I want the room to be a little bit darker. I might put it in dark. And this is one of those things that some outside engineers may come into my studio and they might change it to dark, and then I have to go back in and change it back to light. Okay, this is what I'm talking about, where other engineers come in and they change things for you. Every Monday, I reset all my preferences. Now, I'm going to share with you at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you an app that can back up and restore your preferences back to just the way you like it in a matter of seconds. So, the warnings and dialogue category, don't touch it. Just leave it alone. You want to know when things are going wrong with Pro Tools. You want to know when things are weird. So just leave that one on. Just leave it. If you want to reset it so that it goes back to normal, that could be a thing that you do every time you reset your preferences. But I don't change this one. I don't worry about it. General color. Now, this is where things can get changed with another engineer coming in as well. They might like things a different color. They might not like the default track color coding. They might change it to groups or track type or MIDI devices. They might change it to the way that they like it. But I just leave, this is the default, and I just leave it just the way it is. I don't change it. I've just gotten used to it, and I don't make it anything different. Marker colors. Yes, this is the default. Randomized marker color upon creation. You do want to leave that on because it does make a difference. That way you can differentiate the markers as you make them. As you can see, these markers are all the same color. But if I go make another marker there, now it changes the color because now I have changed the preferences from this session that's been set up. Back to the preferences. Yeah, I just leave these on. Now this is the default and I leave it just the way that it is. Next up, we have operation. Transport. Now, transport is the play, stop, fast forward. Transport is making things go. Okay. Edit, insertion. Now, a lot of these you can change on the fly with these things right up here in Pro Tools. You can change these along the way. Edit, insertion, follow, scrub, shuttle, audio during fast forward. This is the default, by the way. I do just leave this in the default. If I do need to change it, I can change it up here. Or there's actually quick keys that you can do, key commands that you can do to change those. So I leave these are default. I leave those just the way they are. Let's move over here to the record. Latch audio tracks. What I like to do is cancel on audio tracks. So what this means is if I got one track in record and I want to place another track in record, it turns off the previous track from the record mode, okay? If I do want both of them to be in record mode, I can either make a group or I can use the shift key to turn on more than one thing at a time. Enable automation in record, I do not turn that on. Some of you might like that, and this is yet another one of those things that some engineers come in and change. I don't like it. I'm not worried about automation while I'm recording, so I don't turn that on. I do link my record and play faders, so they're not different settings. Audio track record lock, yes. These are the defaults. The only thing I did change so far was the cancel previous. Transport record lock, I don't turn that on. Disable input when disarming tracks. So if you've got the track input turned on and you turn it off and you press a stop, then it will disable the input. And yes, I do turn that on. Mute record arm tracks while stopped. I don't turn that on. But what that would mean would be to mute the record arm track while Pro Tools is not running. Okay, I don't see where that actually mutes it doesn't show as a mute, but maybe it just turns off the input for a second when you turn that on. But this is the default, I don't turn that on. Automatically create new playlist when loop recording. I do turn this on because we also do we do voiceover work, we do ADR work, and sometimes we'll just put this in loop record. And let's say that you're the artist and you want to press record and run into the booth. You want to press record and not have to worry about making new playlist. Turn this on, create a loop, and every time it comes back and starts another one, it'll automatically create a new playlist, which makes it great for if you're the artist as well as the engineer. Online options, we don't do any online work, so I don't change these. This is the default. Miscellaneous mouse wheel scrolling snaps to track. Yes, that's turned on. Auto backup. Oh yes, you definitely want to leave this turned on. Pro Tools is sometimes notorious for crashing while a session is going on. So you kind of want to leave that turned on so it automatically makes a file backup just in case Pro Tools does crash. You can go back and pick up where you left off. Now, this is the default. It keeps the 10 most recent session file backups, and it backs up every 5 minutes. So the most you're going to lose is 4 minutes and 59.9 seconds if it crashes. But some people, you can change this, I think, to 99 most recent, and you can change this to every 1 minute. So every 1 minute, it's going to do a backup. But if you do that, this folder gets filled up pretty quickly. I find that the default of 10 and 5 works perfect. It doesn't crash that often that you have to be that anal about it. But I usually leave mine here. User media and settings locations. Do not, under any circumstances, change these settings. What this is where Pro Tools is looking for stuff that it needs to work. Okay, sound libraries. Just leave it where it is. Don't go changing it, because once you start changing things, Pro Tools takes a little bit longer to have to go find things. Or if the drive that you change this to is not connected, it's not going to find the folder because it's on a drive that's not connected to the system. Just leave this alone. It doesn't take up that much space on your computer. If your computer is set up so that you're running out of space on your hard drive, make some room. When it comes to recording audio, you should not be recording audio on your main computer's hard drive. You should have an external drive just for the audio. Don't record audio. We've talked about this before. Don't record audio straight to your hard drive on your laptop. The way it should be is your main hard drive should only be applications and operating system. Everything else gets put somewhere else. Now, this is part of these user media and setting locations are part of the application of Pro Tools, and you want to leave it on your main hard drive. Show sound libraries in workspace. Yes, that is the default. Leave that on. If you're looking for a sound effect and you open up the workspace location, that's where things are. Don't change things. Leave those alone. Diagnostics. I don't turn this on. I don't need to help Avid with their product. They should figure stuff out on their own. I'm not here to be a beta tester for you, so I do not turn this on. I just leave it alone. Next up, we have the editing tab. Inside the editing tab, we have clips, fades, tracks, zoom toggle, memory locations, etc. So let's start with the clips. Clips are the pieces of audio. Like this right here is one clip. Okay, it's separated from everything else, so it's called a clip. Clip list selection follows edit. The clip list is over here. This is the clip list. So if I select this, it should select it in the clip list as well. So that's what that means in the preferences. And then edit selection follows clip list. So when you do a selection, that's what that means, is that it follows the clip list. Okay. Auto name separated clips. Yes, please. I mean, just if you look at the darker color here, that's the main file. And then the lighter colored track names are, this is the whole file. Okay, the Ractom1 is the whole file, and Ractom4, and then underneath Ractom4 is 0801, 0901. Those are the edits that have been done. Okay, so yeah, they're auto named. Separate clip operates on all related takes. I don't turn that on. Separate clip on all related takes. So in other words, that would do, if you do an edit on the main track, it'll do it also on the playlist or whatever you might have. Send fully overlap clips. I don't turn those on. Overlap clips to available playlist. No, I don't turn those on. The playlist are the playlist. I want to leave those alone. Tab respects breakdown points in automation lanes. I don't. I do. That's the default. I just leave that on. I do want it to follow along in the lanes. Okay, you can turn lanes on down here with this little icon here, show hide automation lanes. And double click selects automation breakpoints. Yes, I do leave that on. Clip gain nudge value is 0.5. This is the default. I find the defaults work great, so I just leave them there. If you do want to change that, you can change it to whatever you need. 1 through 5 number of keys controls zoom presets. That's on your keyboard. 1 through 5 you can change that to be clip effects presets or zoom presets. I find myself not using a lot of clip effects, but if, so I don't turn that on. I just leave it. It's the zoom. I actually don't even use those. I'm working in Smart Tool mostly, and I just zoom in and out where I need to. I don't use presets for zooms. Tracks. So under tracks, this is the default. New tracks default to tick time based. I do turn that off. I don't want my new tracks to be in tick time based. Tick time based is more it's MIDI. We work in samples when we're actually recording audio, so I do turn that off. That is the default that it's on. I turn it off. So suppress name dialog when creating new playlist. What this does is if you go make a new playlist and you have this turned off, it'll ask you to name the new playlist. But if you tick that and you turn it on, it'll just create the next number of your playlist. I do turn that one on because I don't want to be bothered with another dialog box when I'm creating a playlist. Show target playlist after sending clip selection. I don't turn that on. I just leave that. That is the default. Memory locations. Auto name memory locations. No, I don't turn that on. I want to name my memory locations by myself. Recall memory at original track. Yes. Marker target follows first selected track. Yes, I leave those on. Those are the defaults. And memory locations are what are known as markers. That's these things up here. So you can create markers. Even if you don't name them, they show up as location number, whatever. Fades. Now, this is something that a lot of outside engineers will come in and change. You can change your default fade settings to be whatever you want. If you always want to have a fade to do that every time you put it on there, that is something you can do. I do not do that. I leave mine just in the default. So if I do want to create a fade, while I'm creating fades, I can always change it because I do work in Smart Tool. I don't change it here. Smart Tool fade adjustment, I leave that always on. I don't require a command key for that. Fades dialog pre-roll, 3,000 milliseconds is fine. This is the default. The post-roll 3,000. Quick punch, track punch, crossfade is 0, so it's right there all the time, ready to go. Preserve fades when editing. Yes, I just leave that on. Auto accept, adjust bounds. I don't turn that on. These are the defaults. I actually leave mine on the defaults. A lot of times, producers will come in or other engineers will come in and change it because they always want their fade to look like that. But I personally don't do that. I leave mine just like that. Because I have this on, because I'm working in Smart Tool, I can adjust mine as I need to. Because they're not always going to be the same. Yeah, you can't just have a cookie cutter for every fade that you use. You might want them to be a little different. Zoom toggle. Vertical MIDI zoom, always the selection. Horizontal zoom, the selection. Again, remove range. I don't change. These are all the defaults, and I just leave these at default. Separate grid. No, I leave that. Zoom toggle follows edit. Again, the default. Levels of undo, just leave it at the default of 64. Let's move on to the mixing tab. Setup, controllers, automation, delay compensation. So, setup. Again, these are the defaults. I don't change these. I don't need to have a specific level. I send pans default to main pan. I don't change. No, I might want to pan my sends differently, so I just leave that there. So allow sends to persist during low latency mode. You can turn. So what low latency mode does is it turns off your plugins. Okay, it turns off these plugins, the inserts. But you might want to allow the sends to continue. Like if you're sending to a headphone mix or you're sending to an outboard reverb or an outboard delay, you can turn that on and it'll still continue. I don't do it. I don't use low latency mode. Our studios have analog consoles, so we're already monitoring at a console level, so we don't really use low latency mode inside Pro Tools. Default EQ and default dynamics. Now, what this means is that when you go look for an EQ or look for a dynamic controller, you can set up which one you like best. Like, so let's say you like this EQ and you like this dynamics. Every time you use a compressor, you want to use the Fairchild 660. So what this means is that when you turn this on and you go over here and you want to plug something in, they're right there in the top. You just grab them because that's what we use the most. So yeah, you can put those right up there where they need to be, and you can make them what you want them to be. Okay, you can actually tell it which slot to go into. Like if you always want your EQ in slot A, then put it in slot A. I might want to EQ before or after my compressor, so I don't turn those on. So I do leave that. Controllers. We don't use a controller in the studio. Like I said, we have analog consoles, but if you do use a controller, these are some of the settings for your controllers. Okay, and it really depends on which controller you have, whether you're using the Yukon or Avid stuff. I don't know. So if you do have a controller, look into this stuff if you want. These are the defaults, so I'm sure that these are what Avid says should be turned on. Automation. Yes, these are the defaults, and I do leave these alone. Smooth and thin data after pass. That will, like, if you add a bunch of automation, this will thin it out. Like it makes it a little bit, it takes away some of the processing of it. So you can tell it how much to thin or how much not to thin, the degree of thinning. Plug-in controls default to auto-enabled. I don't turn that on. That is the default. I guess that's kind of cool that you can have all your plugins controls default to being already on when you turn that on. Let me try that. Let's see what happens if we do that. So if I turn that on and I go here and let's just look at this plugin. If we turn on automation, this is weird. This is, I mean, I don't know. If you do a lot of automation, I guess it's cool. But this, to me, seems like a lot of processing that has to happen, you know? So I'm not sure that I would actually turn that on. I only turn on, like, I don't need to automate everything on a plugin. So I don't turn this on. If I do need to automate something on a plugin, it's really simple to do, even with key commands. So I don't turn that on. But that is kind of cool to know that that's there. Latching behavior for switch controls in touch. Yes, I leave that on. Include control changes in undo. Yeah, I leave that on too. So after the write pass, switch to. So you can make it switch to touch or just no change or latch. This is the default, is latch. The automation I normally do would be touch because I want it to come on and then go off. Latch is the other one. And write mode. Write mode is, I don't know. I don't think I've ever used write mode. I personally don't use a lot of automation. So because I have an analog console, we basically automate in real time on the analog console. So there, you know. So after write pass, you can switch to latch or no change or touch. You can choose how you like to do it. Steep breakout point, 0 milliseconds. These are the defaults. I don't change these at all. Delay compensation works in samples. If you want to compensate side chains, this is a cool thing to turn on. If you use side chaining a lot inside, and this is a cool thing too. It'll help compensate for the delays of a side chain. You know, if you got a lot of processing going on, like this is a big session we have here with a lot of processing going on with it. It'll create a lot of delays if we do have, you know, a lot of automation on, if we have some side chaining going on with channel strips or with compressors or something, and you might notice that your snare drum's getting a little bit behind or whatever, but this will help compensate for that. So yeah, I do turn that on. Okay, now on to metering. Okay, track and meter types, display, peak clips. All right, so here's what it is. These are all the default. Again, we're starting at the default level. Track and master meter types, I just use the one that the default, the sample peak. Okay, I don't need to use any third party. If you guys do have third party stuff that you like to use, please turn this on. That's totally fine. Peak clips, I leave this at 3 seconds, which is the default, but I do change this one, the clip indication. That way, when it does clip, it shows a little red thing there, and it only stays there for 3 seconds. I don't have to go in and take time and clear it. Okay, so I do turn that on in my preferences. Display, show send assignments. Yes, I want to see that. Show insert assignment gain reduction meter. Yes, I do turn that on because if I do turn on a compressor, I do want to see the compression. I want to see the compression without having to actually open up the compressor. Show track gain reduction meter. Yeah, I do turn that on. I do want to see that. Okay. And gain reduction meter type, compressor limiter only. You can also do it with expander gate, priority compressor, whichever one's the priority. I just leave this. This is the default compressor limiter only. You can actually do all. I'll turn mine on to all because sometimes I do use an expander or a gate, and I might want to see that in the meter without having to open up the plugin. So on to processing. The default handle length is 2 seconds. What the handle is either side. It adds a little bit underneath that you don't really see in case you got to pull it out a little bit. I find that the default 2 seconds is enough. Handle length, there's a handle on the back and on the front. And if you do have to pull it out, you can just pull it out. I find that 2 seconds is enough. If you guys find that you need more of a handle, you can change that, okay? Time compression expansion, I don't use any third-party TCE, so I just go with the Avid time compression expansion plugin. The default settings, again, I just go with the default. If I want to change it inside, I'll change it inside. You know, when you do need a time compression expansion tool, if you guys use some third party, you can actually grab it here and change it to whatever you need it to be. Okay, import. Convert imported to WAV files. I just go with whatever my session is set up as. So if my session is set up as WAV, then it's going to come in as a WAV. If my session is set up to be AIF, it's going to show, it'll convert it to AIF. So I don't turn that on. Automatically copy files on import. You should turn this on. Let's give you a scenario. Let's say the artist comes in, right, and he gives you the stems of, he got the stems of the track that he's using. And you import the stems into your session, and then you record vocals on top of those stems. Then the artist wants you to mix the song, okay? But when he leaves, he's going to take his hard drive with him, okay? And he's going to leave you to mix the song. If you did not have this turned on, the files that you imported are actually still on your artist hard drive. They didn't make a copy on your session. So you don't have those, so you kind of can't mix that song after the artist leaves. So I do turn that on. Convert copied files to session format. Yes, I'll turn that on. I'll convert copied files to whatever session format I've got. So if I'm in a 24-bit, it'll change it to 24-bit. If I'm in a 16-bit, it'll change it to 16-bit. Don't convert sample rate. Don't turn that on. If you're in a 24-bit session and you import a 16-bit file, it's going to run slow or it's going to run fast. It'll be a different sample rate, so don't change that. Import Rex files as clip groups. Rex files are from Propellerhead Reason. Normally, if we deal with somebody that produced the song using Reason, they've outputted as stems or WAV files. So I just bring WAV files in. Drag and drop from desktop conforms to session tempo. Doesn't matter. Rex and ACID files only. So yeah, it converted, because I've got these turned on, it changes it to the session format anyway. Just the sample rate conversion quality, just leave it as the tweak had the slowest, because that way you'll get the better math and it'll be a better conversion. Commit. Now, this one, the default is always use 32-bit. I'll go with follow session settings. If I'm working in a 16-bit session and I commit files or I render files, I don't want them to come out as 32-bit. Because I'm not in a 32-bit session. If I'm in a 32-bit session, it'll change to 32-bit. If I'm in a 24-bit session, it'll change to 24-bit, et cetera, et cetera. So just change, this is the default, change it to follow session settings. That one's pretty important. Again, Elastic Audio, polyphonic is the one that we use the most. Poly meaning more than one. So even if we're dealing with Elastic Audio, I just leave that at the default. Okay, enable Elastic Audio on new tracks, turn that off. You don't need to have that extra processing going on every time you make a track that it turns on Elastic Audio. Just turn that off. If you do need Elastic Audio, you can go in and turn it on right here with this little menu right here that turns on the polyphonic or whatever mode of Elastic Audio you're using. Just turn this off. You don't need that on right now. ARA, automatically analyze clips by time stretching plugins on tick time base. This is the default, and I just leave this on. This has to do with your Melodyne down here in your clip-based stuff, and just leave this on. That is the default, and that way when you do need to use Melodyne built in, then you're ready to go. Miscellaneous, noise burst peak reduction, yes, turn that down. If there's a big noise, it'll turn down the peak reduction. It'll reduce the peaks a little bit. Parallel task, this is the default, so I just leave that on high because I do want the processing to be there. Next tab we have is MIDI. We don't do a lot of MIDI work here, but if you are using Pro Tools as to produce, then these are some of your MIDI controls that you can do here. Display events is modified. Yeah, these are all the defaults. I just leave these at the defaults. I don't change these at all. Standard pitch, yeah, just use the middle C. Delay compensation for external devices. Again, we don't produce a lot, and we don't produce at all in Pro Tools. if we do produce anything, it's either in Ableton or Logic, and then we bring things into Pro Tools. Pro Tools is more for recording and mixing and mastering. Yes, you can produce in Pro Tools, but should you? That's another question for another day. But yeah, I leave all the MIDI stuff just as the default. Next tab we have is collaboration. Now, what collaboration is, when you went and made a new session in Pro Tools, you can either make a new session or you can create cloud projects. That is what is known as the collaboration. Well, what a cloud project does, basically it like saves the session in a cloud, and you can give access to that session to someone that you're working with. Let's say you're working with somebody that's in New York, and you guys are each working on the session. You put the session in the cloud, and each of you has access, and that's what the collaboration feature is. Avid doesn't give you enough space default. When you regular Pro Tools, you have to buy extra space if you want to work with that, because I think they only give you one gig, which is not really enough to do a song. So you kind of have to add to it, but that's fine. But it works really well. You do need to be aware that if you do delete things and change things, it does change it for everyone that's on the collaboration. Okay, but these are the defaults, and you should turn this one on, that new tracks are shared. So when you make a new track, it shares it with everyone on the collab. First invite shares all the tracks. If you are the invitee, then yes, you will kind of want to turn that on, okay? Joining projects download all shared tracks. So if you join someone else's, you do download all the shared tracks. Enable track notes. This is cool because you can leave notes. Automatically download new shared tracks. Yes, leave that one on. That is the default as well. Cloud storage. Prevent others from overwriting open session. You should turn that on, okay? Change will take effect next time. Okay. So yeah, turn that on, because that way you can, if you're the owner of the song, and this is your preferences, by the way, yeah, then you might want to turn that on so no one else can overwrite any of your open session files. Keep unused folders on session close. Yeah, I don't do that. I don't turn that on. We don't do a lot of collab. Again, we don't produce in Pro Tools, so we're not really using this collab feature. But these are things that I think if you are doing this, that you might want to turn that on. Synchronization. Machine control is that you can have outside machines run Pro Tools, and Pro Tools can run outside machines. On some of the machine control stuff, you have to have sync IOs, meaning that if you're using Pro Tools to control, let's say, an analog tape machine via SMPTE timecode, you would need something to run both. You would need something in Pro Tools that's going to drive the analog SMPTE. SMPTE stands for the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. It's a time code. It's a standard global time code that everyone uses to sync things together. We don't use any machine control here in this studio, so I don't worry about turning these things on. I do have one console in my Studio B that has a MIDI transport, but I use MIDI to connect to Pro Tools on that. So basically, if I press play, record, or fast forward or rewind on the console transport, it also follows along in Pro Tools. Synchronization, minimum sync delay is 30 frames. A post-production house might have machines, basically, that Pro Tools is going to control a video deck or a CD player, or you can have Pro Tools sync to outside machines. Once you select OK, all of the preferences that you set should be working, except for the one that said we needed to restart. Okay, so I got something special for all our Apple users, our Mac users. Sorry, PC guys, this one's only for the Apple people. Once you get your preferences set to where you want them, go to PeteGates.com. Now, what Pete Gates has, he has this one app called the PT Prefs Trasher. What this does is sometimes Pro Tools gets a little freaky and things get out of hand, and what you got to do is you have to delete your preferences. We have other producers and other engineers come in and they change my preferences. So what I do pretty much every Monday is I come in and I open my PT Prefs, and what I can do here is I can back up and restore. Can't have Pro Tools open when you do this. So what you can do is now you can back up and restore. So I've got my preferences set exactly where I like them. These are my preferences. This is how I like it. So I can back it up, and it's going to back it up onto this backup folder, the preferences backup. Okay, so now it's been backed up, and now all I have to do is if I come in on Monday morning, and I can just restore from a backup. restore Pro Tools preferences. Are you sure you want to restore the preferences? Yes. Click OK. And what it does is it just restores from my saved backup preference session. Okay, now they've all been restored, and that's what I do every Monday morning. So next time I open Pro Tools, it's going to be exactly the way that I left it. Again, we can go look at my prefs, and things should be right where I left it before, and I backed it up as that. You can see I changed that. You remember the ones that we changed, right? There's only a few of them that I changed. I leave that default. I do 64. Make sure my fades. Look, all my fades are back where I put them, back where I left them. All my fades are back where I left them. My EQ there. My dynamics is right there that I always go to. And what else did we change? The metering, 3 seconds, 3 seconds. Processing, automatically copy files, follow session setting. Yeah, look, all my settings are back where I left it. And it's right where, do a backup and restore. It literally takes, well, you saw it, it takes 10 seconds. And I do that on all my systems every Monday morning, just in case somebody went in and changed it. Again, that's PeteGates.com. I'll put a link to it here on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll also put a link to it on in the description. So again, that's PeteGates.com. It's free. Just go get it. It's the PT Trasher. Just it works great. I've used it for years. It's free. It's awesome. If you really like it, I suggest donating to Pete. Show him some love. And it is an awesome tool that's pretty amazing. If you guys have ever had to dump your preferences without that tool, you understand what I'm talking about. It's difficult. You got to try to figure out which folder goes where, which folder to delete, which folder to rebuild. It's tough, but Pete Gates made it easy on us. Thank you, Pete. If there's any questions, let me know. Leave them in the comments down below. Hey, hopefully you got some good stuff out of that. Hopefully you got some value. Hopefully you got some understanding of what the things are in the preferences and what you could change, what you should change, and more importantly, what you should not change. Make Pro Tools yours. And then, as long as you're on an Apple product, go visit our friend Pete Gates. Get that PT Trasher. It's one of the greatest tools that I have found that's absolutely free. And if you feel like it, donate a little bit to him. There's a little link there on his page. Give him $10, buy him a coffee or something like that. You know, because it is a tool that you're going to use quite often. It's one of these tools that's it's underrated. You know, nobody talks about it, but it's one of these things that if you have it and you need it and you use it, you're going to enjoy it. So enjoy that, man. I've used it for years. Like I said in the video, I dump my preferences every Monday morning here in all my studios. This we're looking at right now is my Studio B. I'm in Studio B today. I've got some other things I have to do in here today. And so I thought I'd film this in here today. So, hey, listen, we're still in Pro Tools month. So I still have the PT tips available. Go to learnprorecording.com/PT tips. And what that is, it's a list of, there's a couple of things in there. There's some templates and presets that you can use, but there's also the Pro Tools key commands. I kind of filtered them down to the ones that we use the most. So go grab that, man. learnprorecording.com/PT tips. Also, got something for you. Go grab the Studio Growth Formula. This thing is super popular. It's like a 7-step guide to help you start, to basically help you build, grow, and scale your studio as you would like to. It's a great little publication to get you going. So go grab that. It's learnprorecording.com/Studio Growth Formula. Of course, it's free. It's not going to cost you anything. So go grab those things, man. It's awesome to have tools to help you. And if you wouldn't mind, leave me a comment down below. Let me know how you liked Pro Tools month. We got some cool stuff coming up next week. Starting next week, we're going to talk about business. The month of December is all about audio business, things we can do to make our money, how we set things up, how we run things. I'm gonna give you access to tools like calendars and booking systems and accounting. Yeah, I know. Okay, don't turn it off just yet. Accounting is important, and we kind of need to do it. You got to write invoices. You know what I mean? So you can get paid. So yeah, no, look, this is going to be all about business, because I'm trying to guide you into stepping up in 2025 and making this your business, do this for your living, man. This is awesome. It's amazing. I can't wait to share with you the stuff coming up, and next year is going to be awesome. I'm already starting to. we're already starting to figure stuff out and build up the channel for next year. I got some changes I'm gonna make. I'll talk to you about it probably next week, but I'll definitely talk to you about it before the end of the year. So thank you guys for hanging out. Oh, while you're down there, leave me a comment. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to the channel. There's a ton of cool stuff that comes out. I'm always giving you something for free that's gonna be helpful, something that's gonna help you build, grow, and scale your audio business, whether you're a music producer, whether you're an audio engineer, freelance audio engineer, studio owner, you wanna own your own studio, dude, I got tools for you. I got stuff for, I got information that you need if you're gonna go build a studio, because I have done it, and it's been okay, man. We've been here, this is our 20th year. We're at the end of our 20th year now. We're gonna be rolling into our 21st year come February 2025. So I'm excited to share with you my knowledge and experience and things that I've done and things that I've been able to accomplish. So I want that for you as well. So let's get out of here. This is Thanksgiving week, so happy Thanksgiving to all of my friends and family in the United States. Or if you're somewhere else and you still celebrate, happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much, but do enjoy the football. We'll see you guys next time. My name is Donnie B. I am out of here. Peace.